Bună ziua și bine ați venit la prima ediție a emisiunii To Value. Sunt Mihaela Tudor, sunt gazda voastră de astăzi și mă bucur tare mult că această perioadă dificilă pentru toată lumea ne-a motivat să începem această serie de emisiuni în care să vă aducem informații valoroase venite de la specialiști buni, foarte buni, aș spune eu, în domeniile în care activează, pentru a ne susține și a ne ajuta reciproc să găsim întotdeauna soluții. De altfel, prima ediție a acestei emisiuni To Value este dedicată oportunităților descoperite în perioada de criză. Îi mulțumesc foarte mult echipei care ne ajută. Transmisiunea este asigurată printr-un sistem dezvoltat de NetTV, partenerii noștri în realizarea acestui proiect. Astăzi am un invitat foarte special alături de mine, un bun prieten și mentorul meu. O să vorbim în limba engleză pentru că este vorba de Matthew K. Cross, este un strateg de talie mondială, este un consultant în business care a lucrat cu companii din Fortune 100 și am încredere că poate să vină cu niște soluții punctuale cu privire la ce pot face atât companiile cât și angajații în această perioadă dificilă pentru toți. Matthew, welcome.
Thank you, Mihaela.
Thank you for joining us today. Because it's not our first show together, but it's our first show here. Let's say a few things about your love for Romania, because you always say that you are a raw American. And I want people to understand that it's very important for them to understand that you really know the business here and you can really provide useful information.
By all means, by all means. And so I just want to say welcome everyone. It's a real honor and a delight to be able to spend some time together, a few minutes together in this very different world than it was even a few weeks ago. And just to back up what Mihaela was saying, yes, I have a long-standing connection, relationship, affection with Romania, going back to 2008 when I first visited the country, and really spiraling to spending about 10% of my life, about a year over the last decade, in Romania, traveling and researching, speaking and connecting. And so I have a very, very deep appreciation for both the ancient and the modern culture of Romania, its present and its future, and just a great affection for the Romanian people. And in reality, quite honestly, I am of the mind that we are really all of one spirit in any event anyway. And even though I was born in a country called the United States, and I'm currently in Bucharest in Romania, I really do think we are truly one family. So I'm delighted to be able to have these few minutes to spend with you, Mihaela, and also share some insights, share some thoughts, share some hope, share some points of guidance, perhaps, for this time and for the times that are to come.
Matthew, if you would choose top 3 things that an employer should do in this period, what would they be?
Well, from an employer's perspective, and this would apply, of course, to Romania or to the United States, I think the first thing that each and every one of us must do, and by the way, what I'm about to say would apply to an employer as much as to the head of a family, as much as to an individual, a sole proprietor, an entrepreneur, the head of an organization of tens of thousands of people, is get calm. Perhaps the most important thing any of us can do is to calm down, get calm, get centered. We don't do our best thinking, we don't do our best acting, and we don't do our best performance unless we're calm and centered and focused. And so for me, that is actually the first point of advice, right? Because so often we want to jump into action. We want to just, as Nike says, just do it, just do something, do anything. Well, unless the house is burning down, or unless you personally right now have a health challenge, then the step 1 is do whatever it takes. And of course, I'll have some suggestions about how you can get calm and get centered. Because from that point, from that platform, you can think clearer, and you can set the stage to act more clearly. Because all right action comes from right thinking, from a centered, focused place. So that would be step one, Mihaela, is do whatever it takes to get calm. And from a suggestion standpoint, quite honestly, there is nothing better than simply getting present. And getting present means tuning down, turning off the distraction, turn off the media, turn off, the internet, put your device away. This works, by the way, whether, it's quote normal times or whether it's now, but turn off the outside influences and get centered and, in a sense, tune in to your own sense and source of calm, which, by the way, for all of us is vast and always available. We don't have to go and try and find it. It's always there, just like the air we breathe. And tune into your breathing. Give yourself even 5 minutes, okay, to get calm and centered. 5 minutes where you close your eyes, lower your brain waves, lower your heart rate, lower your stress response, and breathe slowly and deeply and get centered. That would be job one. Then, after that point, after establishing a baseline of calm and focus and being centered, then I would start to go into, okay, what are some of the high level strategies that one might take in order to address and be able to resolve the challenges that face the individual, whether they're an employer, again, solo entrepreneur, head of a major organization, or head of a family, or just head of your own life. So step one, get centered, get calm, so that you can think more clearly, so that you can set the stage to act more clearly. And I'll pause right there because I am known sometimes to be a runaway train when it comes to inspiration and ideas. And so I want to pause right there, not only to let that sink in for a moment and how important it is, how critically important it is to stop, look, listen, tune in, reconnect with your inner power and your inner focus and your inner intelligence, because we all have it. When you get panicked, when you spend too much time on the media, when you don't question authority, when you don't question what's going on the planet right now, there is something very wrong going on the planet, and it's not just this virus. When you don't stop, look, listen, question, and tune into your own native intelligence, you will be swept along with the tides of panic. And that's not a place any of us wants to be.
I agree with you, Matthew. You cannot choose wisely the future and the next steps without being calm. But some people harder find their centered selves in this period of time. So how to stay calm? Do you have some points that they should look into?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it simply comes down to being as present as you can, as often as you can. I had the opportunity and the great honor to deliver a TED Talk at Biomare in November. And the whole focus of that talk fundamentally was about your point of power, regardless of what's going on in the world and around you. Your point of power is always in the moment. So whatever you can do to get present and focused in the moment is going to keep you as anchored and as rooted in your power. So the breath is really number one. Most of us breathe on autopilot. Most of us breathe very shallowly and sometimes more rapidly when there's panic. We're not even aware of it. So to tune into your breath, slow it down, deepen it, and ideally do this with your eyes closed. Check in. I'm doing this throughout the days here. Check in for a minute or two or three, close your eyes, tune into your breath. Get calm, anchored, and centered. That's your strength. That's your power. So breath, tuning into it, again, even for 1, 2, 3 minutes an hour, is an incredibly powerful practice to reconnect and stay anchored in your inner power, your inner calm, your inner performance and effectiveness. Of course, now more than ever, it's critical to look after our core drivers of health and presence in order to be calm, in order to be focused. So it's even more important now. And for most people who are literally under lockdown or martial law, it's fairly easy to get enough sleep and to hydrate correctly. and to eat intelligently and mindfully. This is a time, in one sense, that there are hidden gifts as far as being forced inside by the state. That is, we can take more stock and more focus on how we're treating ourselves moment to moment and how we're looking after our own health, right? So, breathing is number one. Oxygen's our number one fuel, oxygen's our number one source of inspiration and energy, right? So, being conscious of that, taking control of that ourselves, because we have full power over the depth and the focus of our breath, okay? Taking care of ourselves from a health perspective, and perhaps towards the end of our time together, we can spend a few minutes on some suggestions there. They're basically common sense, but taking better care of ourselves, yes. And also, critically important, of course, is our mindset. Okay? Times like these can dissolve, can destroy hope. And if we stay short-term focused and look at what's going on and digest the narrative and story that the media is feeding us, that we're basically all in grave danger and we're all going to die, which I do not believe with any shred of my soul, we can get swept along and completely pulled out of our power, pulled into a panic state. And again, we don't think rationally. So I think it's critical for us to think beyond today, long term. Now, that might seem like a paradox. How can you be present and also be thinking long term? Well, life is a paradox, right? So every present moment right now is building the long term. But I also suggest that we've got to use the strength and power of our imagination to look beyond the horizon when this tsunami wave on the planet has passed and we're able to rebuild and recover and so forth. What's life going to look like then, whether it's days, weeks, or let's hope not months, right, until this drama recedes. So the point is, calmness is your power. We can use very simple methodologies: meditation, yoga, breathing is the foundation of it all, taking better care of ourselves, looking at the long view with hope and expectancy, right? The light at the end of the tunnel is not a train. It's not a train. The sun will come up tomorrow. We're all going to survive and be stronger. And, you know, if you look at the statistics, predominantly the people who are at risk in this time are the elderly and those with compromised immune systems and those who have pre-existing health conditions. Okay? This is a time to do everything possible to take better care of this holy temple called your body. And I mean your body physical, your body emotional, and your body spiritual. Vital that we tune in and don't make it a luxury to take care of ourselves. It cannot be a luxury any longer. It has to be a necessity. And that includes your immune system. Okay? So, breathing, fundamental. Some sort of meditative practice, phenomenal. Taking better care of our essential health, getting enough sleep, which is the foundation for your immune system functioning well, by the way, is sufficient sleep. Taking better care of what we eat and put in our body. Listen, if you've had a junk food junkie diet up until this point, maybe it's time to reassess, because you run the risk of being more a victim, and none of us are ultimately really victims, but you run the risk of exposing yourself to the hazard of not only this virus, but any other sort of sickness or illness if your immune system is run down. And what you put into your body moment to moment directly contributes to its strength. The long-term view, getting into the mind now, is, hey, let's get a little strategic. Let's be honest with ourselves. Again, back to your original question, Mihaela. If I'm an employer of one person, myself, or 100,000 people, or I'm the head of a family, number one is get candid, get honest, get straight with yourself about where you are today. Okay? I have a really simple
I want to say something here.
Please jump in. I get excited. I'm getting passionate. What can I say? Let's go.
A lot of employers choose already to lay people off or to cut salaries.
Yes.
What do you think? Because in Romania, for example, the crisis just started almost 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Are there consequences?
Well, of course, there's going to be massive society consequences.
To cut a lot of human resources?
Well, let's address that question, which is, of course, a very basic and central one, with some questions of our own, which is what is the best compassionate thing to do and the best possible thing to do if you have employees, if you have team members, right? Literally, taking a look at the balance sheet, taking a look at your cash on hand, your funds, what can you do? If we take a scenario look and we say, well, what if it lasts for a week or 2 weeks or a month or 2 months or 3 months? We have to get practical, tactical today, not wait for days and weeks to pass. Where do we stand? Which is where I was going in the original thought there, which is we've got to be realistic and take stock, if you will, take accounting of where we are today. So an employer needs to look at what's the depth of the resources they have. Ultimately, ideally, of course, we would not want to fire or lay people off unless the company is going to sink. If it's a survival strategy, then obviously that's going to be the only strategy that a company that doesn't have the resources is going to have to take. They're going to have to ideally lay people off, which essentially I suppose is the same as firing, but comes with less emotional hit. But ideally, could we still keep people on at a far reduced number of hours? Could we ask for voluntary reduction in salary? What could we do to at least keep the engine running at a lower level instead of just cutting it like a guillotine? And I'm being very, 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 blunt and straightforward here. But some more thoughts on that, Mihaela. It's a very, very important line of thought.
Yes, I think that because some companies already decided to do this, even though not necessarily they were thinking,
Right, right.
maybe there is an opportunity for others to find
follow.
good people in this period of time.
Oh, yes, absolutely. But let's remember again.
And image-wise, I think is the worst thing possible to lay people off from the start, not even trying to find some solutions.
Listen, it's called the reptilian brain. Our brainstem is directly influenced by fear and panic. Fear fundamentally by the way of death. If you're scared to death, okay, by this terrible virus that's going to come and kill everyone on the planet, which it's not, and you're now going to just follow blindly the orders of the state, stay inside, don't talk to anyone, don't meet anyone, stay 12 meters away, and everything else. And you're going to buy this as being the way it's going to be afterwards. The media is hitting it hard. Oh, the world's never going to be the same. It's never going to go back. Nonsense, my perspective. But back to your question. Back to the thought here. Yes, it's a reptilian knee-jerk response on one level. The survival part of the brain that says, hey, my company's going to die. And by extension, I'm going to die, right? If I'm an employer, my company's going to die, and we take it personally. So I've got to cut costs, cut it all, right? That's the reptilian brain reacting. And to your point, Mihaela, not only is it the non-compassionate thing to do, it's also not smart. Of course not. Ideally, we would want to go into how do we power down, but not all the way, right? How do we just turn the power down? Do we have to have reduction in hours? Almost definitely. Reduction in salary? Possibly. But the last thing we should be doing is cutting our number one resource, not only now, but also when this does recede, which is our people. I'll give you a quick story from America, which is well known in the States. And it's from the airline industry, which is, of course, as we know right now, is suffering terribly. And I know people in the airline industry, and I know some enlightened airlines that are doing the right thing, to your point. They're not just cutting and firing people. They're putting them on reduced salaries and putting them on standby, okay? Anyway, after 9/11, the airline industry basically went through what it's going through right now, at least in the United States, okay? And only one airline, just one airline, took a different approach. Their name is Southwest Airlines. And instead of firing people or cutting people or laying off people or furloughing people, arose by any other name, right? They had a voluntary reduction in hours. And they said, look, we've got to cut hours. We don't want to fire anyone. But they had people sometimes cut in half and even smaller their actual work hours, they knew the economy was going to come back. Most of the other United States airlines, in fact, most of the other airlines in the world, what they do, they fired people. They let them go. They just cut. They reacted, knee jerk. So to close the loop, yes, if you're about to be hit by a car, you need to follow the reptilian panic response. I'm gonna die. Step out of the way. You jump, right? But when we're dealing with other human beings, when we're dealing with our teammates, with our people, we want to tap into the human part of the brain, which is, wait a minute, hold on. Am I going to die right now? Is the company going to sink and close its doors tomorrow? If it's not, let's take a longer view, a compassionate view, and let's see what we can do to get through it together, as opposed to just like every man for himself. And if I'm the CEO or the boss, it's all about me. So let's just cut. That's kind of my longer answer to the question. And at the same time, I'm not attacking anyone who's taking more draconian measures. I'm just encouraging, to your point, compassion. Now, last point. There's always opportunity in crisis. Always. We just have to look for it. And so to your point, Mihaela, and that's a great point. Look, if you've been let go or fired by a company, now you're a free agent. Now you're a resource. So how do you let the rest of the world, or if you're right here in Bucharest, let Bucharest know, or Romania know, that you're on the market? Your unique talents and services and strengths are available. That's perhaps another further conversation. And it means there's going to be a flood of great people in the talent pool, in the job pool, right?
And this is an opportunity.
Huge opportunity. Huge.
This is a very emotional time, and I think that people are going to remember a lot of things from it.
Yes, but let's remember that one of the most important things is you might not have control over the economy right now. You might not have control of your own personal freedom right now. And I speak not just as an American in Romania, I would speak as an American in America. Because even in the most densely populated states in America, it hasn't gone to martial law yet, where the state is saying, we know better than you, stay inside. And if you step outside, we're either going to fine you or arrest you, okay? Most of the more progressive states in the United States are saying, look, it's highly recommended to stay in, but we're not going to arrest you and we're not going to fine you. That's another story. My point is, what do you have control over? And the most important thing you've got control over is your mind and your thinking and your strategy. And the best way to access that most important resource for everyone who's listening right now is to get back to a calm, centered state where you can think more rationally. How am I doing today? What resources do I have? And that includes money. That includes getting very clear. How long can I go before it starts getting desperate? You're better off putting it on paper today. Write it down. Get clear. Your resources, your food, your water, your money. What do the resources look like? Because, see, the unknown is one of the scariest things of all. That's almost at the same level as a fear of death. If you don't know how long you could last, right? So get clear. When it's in front of you, you can manage it. You can work with it. And that puts you back into your power. So my point is, if you're under martial law right now, whoever is listening to this anywhere here in Romania, or if this is going outside on the internet, listen, you might not have temporary control of your own personal freedom, but you do have control of how you think, how you feel, which, by the way, is a broadcasting signal to the future, how you think and how you feel. Don't stay stuck in panic. Don't look at the dark side. There's opportunity here, and it's vast on lots of levels.
Matthew, let's say very short a few things, how companies can reinvent themselves through this period, because there is a lot of talk, and I really think that there are a lot of solutions, but they need not only to stay healthy, to stay calm, but to plan, exactly as you said, to put themselves some very tactical questions and to find the best possible answers, maybe to launch new products, maybe to do things online from now on, maybe something that is needed to go through this period, but not only for this period, but to the future, because we are going to be affected more than 1-2 months of staying at home. So we need to take care of our companies. We need to take care of our families.
Yes, well, from my perspective, from a business or company standpoint, one of the most important things, of course, we can do is use this time rapidly to upgrade and enhance our ability to communicate in mediums such as this. This, in some ways, was more of a luxury, although more and more people were using online communication, of course. But in this day and age, and probably in the foreseeable weeks and months, it's going to be more of an imperative. It's going to be more and more important to enhance and improve, sharpen your skills using mediums like this. It's not optimal. We as human beings are meant to be together. We're meant to be in person. Hopefully, this never becomes the 100% substitute for life on Earth, where we're never seeing each other. We're always looking at a computer screen and trying to find that little green dot here at the top of the laptop so that I'm looking more towards you instead of towards the reflected image on the screen, right? This is not human. This is where we start moving into being a cyborg and being a robot. But to your point, how can you sharpen? How can you get comfortable and familiar? How can you upgrade your ability to communicate digitally? Yes, it's more and more of a necessary skill. Communication is the lifeblood of all of our lives, let alone our businesses. So to be able to start to sharpen that, learn online about that. I'm in the process of putting together an online tutorial and training about how to do that myself because I'm always learning and it's essential. So I think communication, upgrading your communication skills and strategy, right? The various platforms to use, getting to the point where you're fluid and comfortable speaking to one person or to many through mediums like this is probably one of the top vital skills. To your point, Mihaela, I think one of the most important skills that is underutilized by us all and one we have to really bring up. I believe this is going to be really, in many ways, skill number one for anyone in business and anyone in life is essentially the skill of imagination. And I mean, yes, brainstorming, but not even so much limited brainstorming, but imagination. If you look at your business, if you look at whatever you were doing before this whole worldwide crisis hit, what could you do different, better going forward? How could you enhance the value of what you offer so that it reaches the same or more people, right? And how could you
Learn from the
potentially
industries that work now.
Precisely. But how could you move 5, 10, 15, 20% or more of what you're doing now into the digital space, right? So if you previously, like myself, are a speaker and you're on stages and you're in front of people live, how can I actually start to move in a direction where I can still reach people and maybe through the internet reach more people, right? Through mediums such as this. These are questions I'm asking myself and working on literally as the hours go by. But also, I suggest strongly it's a time to, even if you only have a month's left of resources or 2 weeks left of resources, okay? We each have enormous power in how we think and feel moment to moment, which I believe in my research and in my life creates the next moment. Translation, how you think, focus, and feel, not necessarily in that order, is creating your life. Okay? So, what is it that you put off doing that maybe is closer to your heart and passion? Maybe you had a job before that was just about survival. Is there a way you could step into or closer to doing something as this smoke clears, which it will, that is more in alignment with who you are as a person, that would light you up more, that would serve others perhaps better as well? I think strongly if we tap into our imagination, if we honor the dreams and the desires that come forth from that exercise, if we engage in it with others we care about as well, colleagues, family members, etc., it really gives us the opportunity to come together better. right? Because there is a perceived very, very large threat. And I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying that this virus doesn't exist. It clearly does. Something exists, but I don't think it was natural. And I think that there is a larger story behind it. And by the way, that for me is very freeing. It makes me feel like I'm not a victim of nature because I believe nature's on our side, not against us.
Yes, but the problem exists, Matthew, and now we need to focus on finding solutions for this one.
Products and services that will support not only your health as a foundation, I believe the health and immune system restoration, if you will. Okay. How can you bulletproof your immune system? How can you better bulletproof your health? It's not going to be a vaccine. A vaccine is going to weaken your immune system over time. Perhaps, maybe it'll protect you against this latest boogeyman virus, but it's not going to be the long-term solution. The long-term solution is make your health and your immune system more bulletproof. Anything, product or service, information that's going to support people taking responsibility for their health is going to be an even more of a multi-billion-dollar business than it is today. Prevention, sanitation, and I'm talking about, fashionable face masks. I'm talking about products that obviously support better personal hygiene and community hygiene, cultural hygiene, right? Obviously, any sort of creative approaches there are going to take off and are already taking off like crazy. Look what's happening with, face masks and hand sanitizers and toilet paper, for God's sake, right? But how can we get ahead of this? That's a question to ask. How can you, as an individual innovator, as an entrepreneur, whether you like it or not, you're an entrepreneur now. Everyone, I would suggest, on the planet has the opportunity to step into that role. So, what product, service, or information can you create or join in the creation of and deliver it to the world using the one thing where the virus doesn't exist? What's that? This medium, the internet, the web, video, and voice. Virus isn't there, ladies and gentlemen. This is a free zone for now, okay? The only virus on the internet is the misinformation and the disinformation coming from the mass media that's scaring the beep out of everyone. That was me doing the beep, by the way, okay? Just censoring myself, all right? Fear is the greatest form of control of the masses. That's you and me. Delete the fear, you delete the control, and you also regain your power. I'm going global, Mihaela, but I also want to bring it right back. We have no choice but to reinvent, to reimagine, and the best place to do that from is a state of calm, not a state of emergency, not a state of panic, but a state of calm. In that way, use your imagination. Take the advice of Steve Jobs at Apple. One of his favorite sayings was, as he was imagining a new product or a new service, wouldn't it be great if, ask yourself, wouldn't it be great if there was a product that would protect people from all forms of virus, from all forms of potential bacterial infection? Wouldn't it be great if there was a new source of anti-inflammatory, immune system building spray for the throat and the nose? I'm just
to see
brainstorming
the
here.
future.
Yes.
And
yes.
to create a new one.
To create the new one, but you have to imagine it first. And unfortunately, the educational system of the past was about lockstep learning linearly, disconnected, looking at history, looking back, case studies, lots of detail, left brain, not too much right brain creativity. And that's not going to get us into the bright future we know is in front of us. I know it's in front of us, and I'm a champion for it. So to your point, yes, we need to open up our imagination if we're going to create and act in a new, healthy, and profitable way.
I fully agree with you, Matthew, because this is an interactive show. We have a question from the audience, and it's going to be our last subject for today. The question is, a lot of companies froze in this moment. they basically are not doing nothing marketing wise or PR wise. What do you think? Is this a good strategy in this moment to froze and just to do services for your clients if you have, if you still have clients, of course?
No, I don't think it's a good strategy to freeze like a deer in the headlights. No, I don't. Because I think, especially when this all returns and we start to move back towards and beyond the life that was prior, I think those companies that freeze and stop the flow of information, of education about what they're about, what they stand for, their principles, their commitment to not only their employees, but their customers and to the world, I think they leave themselves marooned on the shores of reaction and of fear and of panic. I don't think this is the time to do that. I think this is the time to keep the dialogue open, keep the engagement with their customers, both present and future, open. And I think it's a really massive opportunity to step into that beautiful Romanian word of far. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Far. The lighthouse. Far. The lighthouse.
Okay.
To be a beacon.
Beacon,
Say
yeah.
it for me. Say it for me, Mihaela.
Far.
Far. Far. Oh, I love the rrr, rrr. It reminds me that I'm a Leo the lion, you know? Okay. Far. The point is to be a beacon. Be a beacon. Don't be a dark black hole, for God's sake. Don't turn out the lights. I don't care how big or small your business is, right? Keep the communication going. Be a beacon of hope. Share information of value. Hold.
Be a voice for your domain in these
you.
moments.
Thank you. Thank
do
you.
good for your community. Make alliances with your competitors. Do things that you are going to be remembered for.
Yes, it's about building a legacy and what you're going to be remembered for. Absolutely thinking longer term, but it's also shorter term. It keeps energy flowing. It keeps flow going. We need flow, not to be locked in place and to be frozen by fear. So to your point, Mihaela, yes, do whatever you can to add value. There's a saying, all the king's horses and all the king's men are hopeless in the face of a product or service that adds more value. How can you add more value? In any way possible. And so, listen, the fascinating thing is that, you know, speaking idealically, not everyone's going to listen. There are going to be those companies that just say, stop, we're stopping all expenditures, right? We're firing people, we're cutting our ad, but we're not doing anything. Stop.
Eventually making profit somehow.
Well, it's short term. Well, and by the way, it's a survival strategy. Can't blame the people. Whoever's doing that, right? And you know who you are. Whoever's doing that, hey, that's you know, it's in one sense, it's neither right nor wrong. Is it a healthy, abundant human strategy? That's a different question. Does it potentially preserve capital and prolong the company being alive? Well, maybe it does, and maybe that's also valid depending on the person in the business. There's no blanket statements. However, knowing that maybe a meaningful minority, maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% are going to do that, for those who don't, for those who take the opportunity to maintain and maybe even build, maybe even enhance their communication strategy. Maybe think, hey, wait a minute, maybe we're not in the business of hope, but maybe we could or should be. Maybe that would be a really great thing to do, especially when the tide comes back in, right? Maybe you're going to stand out even more if you do the human thing, the right thing. Maybe you're actually going to stand out and be more of that lighthouse or far, beacon of hope and light and positivity and prosperity ultimately. Because I got news for everyone who's listening. This world is an insanely abundant place. And though it might not look like it right now, there's a ton of cash out there, an opportunity waiting for each and every one of us to lengthen, widen, and light up our runway to invite it and say, come on, let's land.
Thank you so much, Matthew. On this note, I want to close our session for today. I promise that we are going to continue because there are very insightful tips for our people watching.
We haven't even touched on the health stuff. We haven't even touched on that good stuff, but we will. We will.
We will, because
if
now we
enough
are
demand.
online and we are doing our own shows and trying to help people and share information and create a strong community. So thank you for today.
I say Sanatate Maximus, Shi Dragoste, and Hai Narog to everyone, and much love. And hope. And hope.
Thank you, Matthew. Vă mulțumesc și eu foarte mult că ați fost alături de noi. Sper că vă sunt utile informațiile primite. Așa cum zicea și Matthew, ștergeți teama, focusați-vă pe voi, pe ce aveți de făcut, fiți calmi, întotdeauna există oportunități, trebuie doar să le găsim. Creați-vă alianțe, inclusiv cu oameni din domeniul vostru, inclusiv cu competitori, inclusiv cu persoane la care nu v-ați gândit până acum, pentru că e momentul în care să ne susținem reciproc, e momentul să fim solidari, e momentul să acționăm cât mai înțelept cu putință și să avem compasiune pentru oamenii din jurul nostru, să avem compasiune și responsabilitate pentru ceea ce comunicăm și transmitem și, așa cum zicea și Matthew, să nu uităm că este o perioadă în care te poți afirma și poți aduce valoare ție și oamenilor din jurul tău. Am avut emoții astăzi, a fost prima ediție, vă mulțumesc foarte mult că ne-ați urmărit. Vom răspunde la toate întrebările pe care le veți lăsa acolo în postări. Mulțumesc încă o dată pentru transmisiune, care este asigurată printr-un sistem dezvoltat de Net TV, partenerii noștri la realizarea acestui proiect. Pe curând și aveți grijă de voi. Mihaela Tudor, la revedere!